people took trash and dumped it on his head. And his father had to take that. Why? Because his father just wanted his son to have a better life. My name is Paul Cheng. I'm an immigrant, just like many of the Asian Americans that are here in Southern California. I've been here for over 40 years, and very proud to say, Arcadia is my home. I live in a great city. I work in Pasadena, California. That's where my law firm is. I'm in the best country in the world, and I feel so blessed to be in America that, my father, he's from Asia. And I asked him, I said, what made you come to America? In the 1930s, there was a Catholic father who was from America, traveled all the way to China in the middle of nowhere, and decided to spread love, the belief in God and the belief in America to all of these children. And that's what motivated him to eventually come to America. And so yes, I consider myself an immigrant. My father is passed, and I don't know where he is, but I know that when I go and I join him, that's where I want to be. I want to be in that category of an immigrant, of feeling blessed, of feeling hungry, of feeling like I'm the most fortunate person in the world. My family, they basically told me that law would be a good field for me. We do have a lot of physicians. I actually really wanted to be a teacher. That was my dream. I feel very fortunate that I have friends around me that ended up doing the profession that I really wanted. So my family said, that's not a good move. You're going to be really hungry, and we have enough doctors. So why don't you go to law? I remember telling my mom, I said, if you want me to be a person picking up trash, I'll do it. If you want me to go to law, I'll do it. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And so that's why I became a lawyer. I think one of the first things that you realize when you become an attorney is you have a lot of power in your hand, but you have no respect in society. And it's a conflict, and it's painful. And I actually went through that too. I really felt angry and upset. How can I be able to file a motion, for example, ask the court to do something, and there's $1 million decision, and yet society tells me that I'm worth nothing, that I fight for things that are untrue, that I make things black into white, white into black. I really struggled with that as a new lawyer. I don't struggle with that as much. It's very tough. It's a very tough profession. Definitely not glamorous at all. I think that 80% of our cases, they're going to be glamorous. They're going to involve a lot of money. Society is really going to give you a lot of support. And they feed our stomachs, but they don't feed our soul. And I think it's important for a lawyer to be able to have cases that feed their soul. As a lawyer, we were taught that so green cards have kind of a pathway to US citizenship. So you have to have a green card for 5 years. That within the 2-year conditional period, if you get divorced in any way, that is fraud. And that makes a lot of sense, because why would someone get into a relationship and break it off, if not but for your green card? And so a lot of calls are made into law firms of abused people. Typically they're abused women. And those calls are typically met with, well, you need to go back. You need to go back to your abusive relationship because it's fraud if you leave. And so I actually made those recommendations too, because I was taught that way. I didn't know. So I was sending all these people back to these abusive relationships. Well, one day there was a lady, she came into my office, and her story that she told me was shocking. She said that her husband was requiring her to have sex with other men, and her husband was videotaping her, and her husband was forcing her to do that. And I said, well, why would you do that? In my cold lawyer way, why would you do that? She says, I need this green card for my daughter. And in that instant, I gave her the recommendation that I had given to so many people, that so many attorneys have done. Well, I want you to know that immigration has this law that if you end up getting separated within the 2-year period, you're going to be sent back to China. And I said, well, thank you very much for coming in. I'm glad I could be a support to the Chinese community. Thank you, goodbye. And she said, I'm not leaving you. And I looked at her, I said, I don't understand. We're done. She says, no, that's not enough. And so she literally fell on the ground, 跪下来. And she said, no, you have to find a way out of this. And I can be able to say that it was really because of her daughter. Her daughter was withdrawn. Her daughter, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure she was involved in what my mom was saying. And the daughter wouldn't look at me. And the daughter wouldn't talk. So for half a day, I spent researching the law. I turned away all the clients, these 80% paying clients, right, for her. The Violence Against Women Act, it's called VAWA, allows you, if you're in an abused relationship, to get your green card and your pathway to citizenship without your abusing spouse. You don't have to deal with that anymore. And so now I get these pictures back. I see the daughter, she's calling me. This, it's wonderful because you asked me, what do we do as attorneys? I would say that in that moment, I'm gonna do something that I wasn't taught to do or that I'm not supposed to do, but you do that to feed your soul. And that's the only way that you can be able to survive. Law, it's an awesome profession for those that truly wanna make an impact. If that really was your goal. Nonprofit organizations, I think, are absolutely amazing. They do so much for the community. But they need to gather as many people as they can together to support a cause. An attorney only needs one person as a client to change the world. Society has said, instead of knives and guns, we're going to exchange it for the power of the pen. And so the lawyer with his pen, and obviously his mouth, can be able to effectuate change over the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Obviously not as quick as an elected official, but at the same time, I think a lawyer is able to do it in just the same way, maybe not as quick, but they could be able to effectuate that same power. But I think I'm able to be empathetic to those people that I meet, because in many ways I've been there. I've talked about being an immigrant. I've talked about, being young in a place when it wasn't cool to be Asian. I remember growing up having to sit by myself, no one around me, people calling me names. I actually ended up moving from Orange County to LA because I was getting beat up. I was in the class and kids would pull out the chair from underneath me. I'd fall on the ground and the teacher would be laughing at me too. It was a very tough, difficult time. And America is different now. I think the challenges for immigrants are different. The immigrants, many of them that come to America are very wealthy. I don't think it was really like that for the new immigrants 40 years ago. Definitely not to the extreme that it is now. But I think that's really the quality, I think, that makes me different. People within the community would say that I'm successful. I can be able to say that I'm definitely not there. I think that there are many, many people that have come before me that I would consider to be a success. I didn't do all this by myself. There are many people that decided to take the step out when nobody was around them. A lot of times I think about Joaquin Lim, marijuana. When he came out, nobody was there. I think about Sophie Wong, who was part of, she was an elected in Monterey Park. I think about those people that even came before Mike King, before Judy Chu, that paved the way. And obviously Mike King and Judy Chu, they're paving the way for us now. I think in a way, when you ask me if I'm a success story, I kind of feel like I almost feel like I cheated my way. Because if you hear them talk, and you really hear what they went through, getting beat up when I was young, or sitting by myself, or being called a nip or a gook, that's nothing. Oh, that's nothing. Mike King told the story of his father where people took trash and dumped it on his head, and his father had to take that. Why? Because his father just wanted his son to have a better life. I mean, that just breaks your heart. I mean, I wouldn't even know what to do. But the reason why it doesn't happen today, or it shouldn't happen today, is because the trash that was thrown on the people that came before us. And so I'm just living the success of what they did, because they didn't taste the success of what we taste now. You know, if you were to walk into a restaurant and someone calls you a Cheng, you'd probably say, "Are you crazy? Where are you from?" But you couldn't say that before. You would just eat it and hope they didn't spit in your food. So you ask me whether I'm a success story. Yes, on the backs of those that came before me. I'm just eating the gravy. I'm just having the fruit of those people that planted before us. That's how I feel.